Okay, Zorlord here, and we're going to do some more on how to do a death meditation. So we'll just do a quick review, and actually this is from reading 1 of the Asian Classics Institute practice number 5, daily practice number 5, death and the end of death. So it's a really fascinating text, and I'm going to go through the whole thing. It might take me a while. So for today, let's just review the last thing we talked about, which are the 4 steps to the contemplation of death. And the first one is considering the problems of not meditating on death. The second is considering the benefits of meditating on death. The third is identifying just what kind of death awareness we seek to develop. And then the fourth is how to meditate and develop this awareness of death. So today we're just going to talk briefly about the first of the 4, which is considering the problems of not meditating on death. So, and again, this is, if you want to check out the text, let me know, I'll send it to you. And this is directly from the Tibetan, from the Lamrim Chenmo of Jason Kappa. Lamrim Chenmo, you can translate that as the great book on the steps to enlightenment. Okay, so here's what he has to say on the problems of not meditating on death. So here's the first of the 4. Above, we spoke of getting the very essence out of this life, where now you have a whole range of spiritual opportunities. So the idea here is that we have what's called a life of leisure and fortune, which means basically we're not born as an animal, and we actually have time to study spiritual things. So doesn't mean you don't have a job. Maybe you don't, doesn't matter. Here's the first of the 4. Above, we spoke of getting the very essence out of this life, where now you have a whole range of spiritual opportunities. The one thing that could damage your ability to do so from the very beginning is the first of what we call the 4 misconceptions. This is the misconception where you grasp to impermanent things as being permanent. So this is the whole ball of wax right here. And then he breaks this down even further. He says there's 2 versions to this wrong idea. One is more subtle and one is more gross. The one that could damage your practice is the grosser one, and that's where you look upon your own impermanence, your own mortality, and imagine for some reason that you are not going to die. Now, it is true that in your life up till now, you have had some awareness that eventually you would have to die. Everybody has this kind of death awareness. But at the same time, you tend to be of the opinion that you won't die, because with every day that passes, you say to yourself, it won't be today. Today is not the day that I will die. And you keep this attitude all the way up to the moment of your death. Suppose you let this kind of attitude go on. Suppose you fail to apply the spiritual antidotes that would stop these sorts of thoughts. The thoughts then create a kind of spiritual blindness. You begin to get the idea that you're going to be able to stay here in this life, and then you start to obsess on this life. And if you concentrate on that, all you can concentrate on then is how to get what you want and how to escape what you don't want in this life. Your life becomes, today I need this, and next this. This living in the present prevents you from ever examining the greater goals of life. Things like happiness in your future life, or nirvana, or enlightenment itself. This in turn blocks you from any desire to enter the Dharma. Of course, the Dharma are the spiritual teachings of the Buddha and the way to liberation. And then even if by some remote chance you do engage in spiritual activities like learning, contemplation, or meditation, they all become something you are doing only for this life. Whatever good deeds you do this way are of very little strength. Typically they are connected with some bad deed, some breaking of morality, or transgression of a vow. In fact, it is quite unusual to find any good deeds of this kind that are not interlaced with the very causes that would take you to one of the births of misery. We'll keep going. And I'm just going to read this. I haven't read this in a while, and maybe we'll talk about it. Suppose even that you do decide to do something for your future life. Without this awareness of death, okay, I'm just going to interrupt this for a second. So, a core foundational idea of Buddhism is this idea of past and future lives. So, they're not saying maybe you have future lives. They're saying for sure you will have another life, and if you don't use this one properly, you might get reborn as an animal or in some other realm, which is not going to be as fantastic as the life you have now. So you'll hear them talk about this a lot, and I also think it's interesting that we tend to think of meditation and maybe Buddhism or even spirituality in general as this idea that you have to live in the present, remain in the present, stay present. And of course, mindfulness is about being aware of the present. But the whole thing Jason Kappa is talking about now is, as you are in the present, don't forget what's coming. So that's kind of what he's talking about with this death awareness. So he says, suppose even that you do decide to do something for your future life. Without this awareness of death, you will find yourself unable to stop the kind of laziness where you put your practice off, where you say to yourself, I'll get to it later. I'll do all these things eventually, one at a time. So, and again, just to cut in here, so he's really saying that the practice of a death awareness meditation is the antidote for procrastination. So I see a lot of people seem to be concerned with procrastination. So here's a time-tested tool to tackle it. You begin to pass the time of your life with all kinds of distractions, with sleep or lazing around or wasted talk or food or drink or the like. You won't be able to reach a point where the practice that you do has any great energy behind it, where your practice is as it should be. This kind of hope that you will be able to live for a long time deceives you. You start to have a strong attachment for gain, to being honored by other people and the like. You begin to feel a strong dislike for anything that prevents you or anything that might prevent you from having these things. There grows in you a dark ignorance that cannot understand the problems these thoughts then give you. All this brings you a steady torrent of mental afflictions, strong ones, and many different varieties of them, major and minor, pride and jealousy and the rest. So I want to keep these short, like sort of snackable meditations on death. So I'm not going to continue with the text here. But I think, this is just the second little video I'm doing. Already, so much is coming back to me of my earlier studies, and I can definitely fall into this. I think we can all fall into this. And I don't think he's saying that you can't enjoy life. Of course, you're supposed to enjoy life. But again, this whole idea is predicated on this idea that is on this concept that we have this life of leisure and fortune, and if we don't use it to ultimately understand reality and how it exists and how we exist, that we will be forced into suffering in the future, and maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's years from now. So this is the problems. We're still going over the problems of not meditating on death. So I'm going to end it there and do more maybe tomorrow. Okay, have a great day. Zor Lord out.